Mr. Lee Flewitt, welcome to CamTalks.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. You are the first guest of the new series, I guess.
Wow.
Yeah, all on
I feel
Alderney.
very privileged to be number one.
Well,
Was it a lottery, or did I just spring to your mind first as the most prominent?
well, I'll be honest with you, Lee. There's only one person on this island that I fear in terms of maybe being of more confidence than myself. And there's nothing more that says it than your recent theatre win. Are you now a multiple award-winning actor?
Not actor. I am an award-winning playwright, and I am an award-winning actor. So in a sense of, I'm a multiple award-winning person, but not in either genre.
Wow. Okay. Well, this is the reason why you're here. Clearly, we live on a very tiny little island
Yeah.
that people in the UK have no idea how special a community really is. And I've grown up with you.
Yeah.
And I've been inspired by you, and I wanted to just bring you here to find out a little bit more about how your brain works. Which I don't know if I should go in there.
No, I like the sound of that. When you say you've grown up with me, are you sort of, we're not contemporaries? Are you saying that it took me a long while and then you eventually caught up easily?
I would say that I grew up wondering how I could be as confident as you, and
Really?
there was a whole generation of kids who grew up here with their parents
Yeah.
in what I would consider the peak socialization season of their life.
Yeah.
And we as children got to admire and watch that, particularly in Gala nights.
Yeah.
So obviously anyone that doesn't know what a Gala night is, it's how would you explain a Gala night?
Gala night is a sort of very hastily put together series of sketches. It's like a review, and it's something that Ronnie and I have been involved since, gosh, the 90s, I would think. And Ronnie before that, obviously, because I came in late, and with Ray Parkin and various other people, and it's just great fun. It's something you do very quickly. We put it together. It's quite shambolic. Everybody knows that things are going to go wrong. People love to come along and see what a hash we make, and occasionally we have an enormous triumph. And but it's always fun. The Gala night is every year. Wednesday nights in Alderney week has been a tradition now for yonks, and it's one of our favourite things.
It is pretty crazy. It's almost the most serious amateur dramatics in the world.
In the sense that it is amateur, and the emphasis is on amateur. The emphasis is on amateur, and also having, it's something that it's homegrown. That's another emphasis of it. So all the jokes tend to be quite local, and all the dance routines, the choreography is devised locally in house. All of the props and what have you that Ronnie makes and I make, they're all designed and devised in house. The sketches, I write a lot of them. Ronnie writes a lot of them. Some of them we co-write together. He comes up with a really good idea and he says, just color in, join the dots and color it in. And we have great fun doing all of that. It's but the whole ethos of it is, it's Alderney grown, Alderney performed, and it's about Alderney because it's Alderney's great night, great week, the Alderney week in August.
It's kind of nuts because I spent 30 years trying to run away from this island. And now I'm 32 and I can't think of a better place in the world. I mean, it's 2025 now. So in case anyone was listening to this in the future, we're all taken over by robots. This at the moment is this is the nicest place to live. Like you have people around you that you can kind of I think you're really useful here. In the UK there's probably lots of different things you can get up to, but here it really matters what you do, and I think you end up finding so many extra curriculum activities on this island that you get so busy. I don't know how
people say, what do you do on that little island, so few people? And I've never been more busy. I've lived in London, I've lived in Los Angeles, and I never had as much to do in those places as I have to do here. And the thing is, I have more friends here. And it's because it's a little cellular community, isn't it? It's so small. Everything is so modular. You know everybody. You walk down the street and you know how long it takes you to get from one end of Victoria Street to the other. because you stop every 5 yards and you're chatting with somebody else.
You can't make it down Victoria
You
Street.
cannot make it down Victoria Street without having a chat with someone, not unless you put a paper bag over your head, or and
you're on
go
the phone or
incognito.
something.
But yeah, there's that.
I gotta go.
So it's really impossible. So we all know what it's like living in Alderney. It is one of the most sociable places I think I've ever lived on, and
Absolutely.
Guernsey is so much bigger, and you can walk into a pub and not know anybody. It would be impossible to walk into a pub or a shop or any establishment on this island without knowing more than half of the people in there.
And that's why we love it.
And
And I also know that, I mean, this is not a big podcast, right? I mean, at least not yet. Maybe one day it'll be ginormous. But all the people listening to this right now are looking at Lee Flewitt and they're going, I know Lee. Do I know Lee? And so really, Lee, I mean, instead of talking about Alderney, why don't you take us back? Lee, where the hell were you born?
Well, I was born in Great Yarmouth in Norfolk in 1957.
Interesting. And so as a young lad, your family, mum, dad, brother, sister?
Mum and dad, they had a cafe, much frequented at the time by American servicemen who used to love our jukebox, and we used to have all the American music on the jukebox.
Wow.
And they used to come in because they had a base in Norfolk. They had air bases in Norfolk then. They probably still do. But so we were. I was called Lee after Stagger Lee, apparently. And
Who the hell's that?
It was someone in a song at the time, a rock and roll song. This is just after rock and roll came in. Rock and roll started in 1956, and I was born in 57, so it was relatively in its youth then. I always thought it might be, Jerry Lee Lewis or something, but no, it's Stagger Lee, which is appropriate considering how dyspraxic I am. And my brother Carl was named after Carl
Marx?
No, Carl. Carl is named after Carl somebody or other. He was a precursor he wrote a lot of Elvis Presley songs, but was a star in his own right. Carl Perkins.
Carl Perkins,
yeah. And that's why his name is spelt with a C rather than the Germanic K. So we've got American names.
Yeah, and
my
I love
sister's
for
called
music.
Sherry.
Sherry, I know,
which was a big American name back then. No one was called Sherry in England then. I don't think I've ever met another Sherry.
I thought she was named after the drink.
Well, she probably was, but I think she was named for maybe Sherry Baby. But I mean, I think that came out later. But
so there was the three of you then.
Three of us then, and then later on Mark when we just before we came here, I think. Yeah.
And so you grew up in Norfolk.
Yeah.
And you had a very musical background. Is this
not particularly? No, we had the jukebox, but we left there when I was so young. I hardly remember it. We came here, and my parents they'd been to Guernsey, I think for a holiday from Norfolk. They left us behind. We were looked after. And back then, I think you could do day trips to Alderney, like you could do day trips from Guernsey to Sark or Herm. And they used to do day trips to Alderney then, probably on an aeroplane. And they came over here and they saw this hotel up for sale at the bottom of Victoria Street, the Victoria Hotel. And they pretty much immediately fell in love with Alderney and the lifestyle and the quietude and, everything that Alderney's got going for it. It had it then, much simpler place then, obviously. And they decided basically on a whim to buy this hotel there and then.
Wow. So they had the Victoria.
So, yeah, we had the Victoria Hotel for going on 30 or 40 years. In one way or the other. It was my brother had it for a while, my sister had it for a while. When my parents died, well, my mother had it after my father died, and then she died, and then it all went between the four of us, and then Carl took it on. And and so we were there for years and years and years. It was some of the happiest days of my life spent in the basement of the Victoria Hotel, because we were so lucky.
There's a basement?
There is a massive basement, which is the entire ground floor again, below ground.
Really?
And
Wow.
because my mum and dad wanted to rent out as many of the rooms as they could, they consigned us to the basement. They made it a really lovely area to be in. The massive rooms. And because we were down there on our own, this is in the early 60s, bear in mind, we had our own television and our own, beds, and obviously and furniture were down there. It was a living quarters, but we had our own television, which nowadays you take for granted that you've got a television in your bedroom.
Hmm.
But back then, that was something that you only saw on American TV. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Where people had televisions in their bedrooms. So this is
Wow.
outrageous. And so we used
The
to have,
fancy
so we were,
Flewitts.
yeah, it was great. All the kids used to come over to our pad and watch television in our little area downstairs. And mum was always shouting down the stairs, keep it down, got guests in. So we were always hollering. And that was our life down there for many years, many
Wow.
years. Yeah, and even before moving out, I was sleeping in the basement, because it was perfectly comfortable, and it
Mm.
was quiet, out of the way.
It's funny because I consider myself like a second generation immigrant to Alderney.
Right.
Like I see my mum and dad
Yeah.
as the settlers.
Yeah.
And so are you. So your parents were the reason why you came to this lovely island.
Yeah, but I was 4 when I came here.
Ah.
I mean, all of my best memories are of being here. I've got some very early memories of being in Great Yarmouth, but no, most of my formative years were spent here. We used to
Wow.
occasionally go back to to Norfolk because my father still had a business there, and we used to go back in the winter and school over until the spring, through the winter into the spring. Did that a few times, and had many friends in that side as well, who we used to love going back to see. But no, Alderney has always been the place.
I have to ask you then. So what was Alderney like in the I guess the 70s? Is that when did you first start getting into trouble? That's what I want to know.
Oh, crikey. Well, let me think. I would have been probably in my teens, so 70s, early 70s, I would have thought.
Hmm.
Well, I lost the eye in the
Explain the
UK.
eye.
Well, this is like I mentioned before about going back and forth to the UK because my father had a business, and we went over there one year for schooling and what have you, because we had a house over there as well. And we'd go to the local school. And this is in Galston, which is a little town annexed to Great Yarmouth almost. And we'd go and play on the beach, Galston Beach, which was quite a lovely long beach. It's like a pleasure beach, it's full of all your kiss me quick stalls and what have you. But we used to go in there winter, and none of that was happening. Bit of a ghost town in the winter, actually, Galston. So we'd go on the beach and we were playing, and it was just after Christmas, but before New Year. So it was cold, and we used to play this game, my brother and our friends, a bit like conkers. Now, the beach in Galston is strewn with these pebbles of flint, but we used to use one of these pebbles as a conker and lay it in the sand, and then our friend would have another pebble, and he'd throw it at our pebble, and the one that smashed to pieces was, the winner. And of course, it's flint. This is what ancient man used to make scalpels and spearheads from. Can you imagine
Oh,
when it
God.
shatters? It goes off like a grenade, and it's razor sharp shards of stone. And of course, this happened. My friend threw his at mine, and it shattered. And of course, one went straight into the old eyeball. And so
Oh, man.
they didn't realize how badly I was hurt. So I ran home crying, but not. It was painful, but it wasn't agonizing. But I knew I knew it was like being poked in the eye with a finger. You get that same sort of feeling. And I ran home, and no one was at home, so I had to sit on the doorstep for about an
Oh
age,
no.
waiting for my parents to come home. And meanwhile, this damage was being done because this flint actually went in and back
It
behind
was
the eye.
stuck in your eye.
Yeah, it wasn't not through the front of it, but it gone underneath and in, and yeah.
Wow.
And so, of course, every movement of the eye, I suppose, was causing more damage.
So how long did you have to wait until your
Well, my
parents came
father,
back?
about an hour or two,
Oh
I
my
think, as I
God.
recall. I
What?
can't recall. They eventually got me in, and but they put me to bed, not thinking anything was seriously wrong. And the next day, my dad said, "Not sure about this eye. Let's get you to the hospital." So he drove me from there to Norwich Hospital. I don't remember if I went to Yarmouth Hospital. I think I went to Yarmouth Hospital first, and they said, "Oh, we're going to refer this to Norwich." and thence to Norwich Hospital, where they admitted me immediately. And I was there for 5 or 6 weeks because they were trying to save it.
Wow.
Because I was only 9 at the time, and nothing happened. In the end, they announced to me, "We're so sorry, old chap. You know, we're going to have to remove the eye." And I think they thought it was going to devastate me, but it actually didn't bother me at all, because I was reading a lot of Marvel comics at the time, and Nick Fury only had one eye, and he wore an eye patch, and I thought, oh well, I'll just be Nick Fury, and so it didn't bother me at all, and frankly, it never has.
Wow.
It never has. It didn't traumatize me too badly. So I think if I'd been blinded, that would have been a
Yeah,
different
yeah, of
story. But
course.
no, I've managed all right on one eye for the
Can
last.
I ask who who was the person that wasn't responsible, but
Well, no, it was somebody called Smith. Honestly, and I
John
can't remember.
Smith.
I think it was someone called Philip Smith.
And did he know what had happened?
No, he didn't know he'd done any harm. We'd been doing it to each other. It's only luck that
Oh my God.
that it happened to me. He was a very good mate of mine, and we were on the beach. Carl was there, but
Wow.
people think Carl did it. He never did.
Do you know what? That's what I heard.
No, he
I
didn't
heard
do
that.
it.
Okay,
No,
so your brother has
this
been,
lad, Philip Smith.
ladies and gentlemen, is not Carl's fault.
Yeah, no, didn't, nothing to do with him at all. And so that was that. Yeah, and I've always managed on one eye perfectly well, driving, getting around. A bit short-sighted in it. Obviously, not as short-sighted as this one. But
because obviously you used to wear the eye patch. What was the choice behind removing that? Because you used to have like a fancy dress wardrobe just full of eye patches.
Well, I still do. On my 65th birthday, everyone wore an eye patch in honor, and I thought I was really touched, and I've still got all of those. But no, the reason it's funny about having one eye and wearing an eye patch. If you've got one leg and you've got a crutch or an empty trouser leg, people give you, fair dues, poor fellow. Okay, that's, but they don't say, get a move on, hop along or anything like that. And if you've got one arm, they don't say, oh, you look harmless to a one arm. You wouldn't do that, would you?
No, of course not.
But people would actually drive past me in towns I'd never been to before. And this is what triggered it, really. This car drove past me. I was in Blackpool and stopped. And the driver wound down his window and shouted across the road, "Aye, aye, pirate," which I've heard millions of times, billions of times even. Who knows how many times I've heard that joke. But people seemed to think it was the most clever thing they'd ever heard said to someone with one eye. And it just seems to me that an eye patch attracts that kind of attention, a negative attention, a mockery. It attracts mockery, even though you've got a perfectly good reason to wear one. It attracts mockery. And I'd walk into pubs, clubs, anywhere. I'd be walking down the street and people would just say, "Aye, aye."
Yeah, people are cruel, man.
But it didn't bother me until I thought, I've had enough of this. I said, I don't really know why I'm wearing an eye patch now. It's not like that. It's disfiguring too badly. It's like no one would really care. I've seen people with one eye not wearing eye patches, and they look perfectly fine. And I think it was just years and years of wearing an eye patch, more than 30 years. I started wearing an eye patch in the 80s because I used to have a glass eye before that. Now, I would never wear a glass eye again because it's hideous. But mine was anyway, because it went cloudy, and that's basically why I started wearing the eye patch. And I thought, right, I'm just going to get rid of the eye patch, and it's the most liberating thing I've ever done. And do you know what? I haven't had a single disparaging comment since then, in 2 years since I've done it.
Wow.
Because people see that there's something plainly amiss.
Yeah.
Whereas they see an eye patch and they think some kind of posturing is going on. You know what I mean?
Yeah, of course.
So,
but you were very young when this happened. I mean, were there ever times when it did affect you, like in your life? Was there? I mean,
no, I don't. I think I was self-conscious about the glass eye.
Right.
Because it didn't move. It didn't look real. I used to see photographs of myself and think, Oh God, that bloody eye looks. Because I'd look like boss-eyed or cross-eyed, depending. Because it just sort of stared straight ahead, but it had slight mobility, but not as mobile as an ordinary eye, and it was beautifully made and everything. And I had it for blimey so many years. I had it. I lost it actually in the time I've been with Alex. So
Where did you lose it?
I lost it in a hotel in Jersey.
Oh
I think
my
it
God.
fell out of my wash bag, but I hadn't been wearing it. I hadn't been wearing it for years and years anyway, but I kept it as a keepsake. And I think it just fell out of my wash bag in a hotel in Jersey, and someone is probably the proud possessor of a porcelain eye.
Oh my
But it's not
God.
like a ball, It's
Yeah.
it's more like it was more sort of triangular shaped, and it was indented at the back so that the muscles would pick it up and move it around.
Oh,
And
interesting.
it would occasionally pop out in indiscreet moments.
Drunken moments.
Yeah, sometimes I just
Wow.
shake my head. Something. I remember at the Bellevue Disco having a dance and shaking my head around a bit. I think I was doing the Grebo to Status Quo. I was like that, shaking my head, and it just rolled out of my head. And I had everyone on their hands and knees looking for it. Middle of a Status
Wow.
Quo song.
Wow.
So bloody inconvenient sometimes.
But I love this though because I mean, on one hand, it's a real it's a real important part of your body. Like your eyes, you have two of them, but then with one eye, you'd like to think that you see the world in a different way, but really you
No,
only
you
see
don't.
what's going on that way.
You don't. You see. Well, there's that. I mean, I can't see my hand there.
Yeah.
So I've lost about a third of the scope of vision because this eye, obviously, the eyes overlap like that, don't they? So I've lost about a third of my scope. And Alex is always doing silly things in front of our friends to, just that sort of thing. Do you know how to making silly gestures where she knows I can't see that anybody else
Yeah,
would normally
just
see?
messing around.
Yeah, and my brother's terrible. He's always doing stuff like that, winding me up.
I love it though because growing up on Alderney, you've grown up with the same people. It's like I wouldn't call it a prison. This isn't Alcatraz, but you can't really escape.
No.
And the people that you've grown up with, you must see them all the time.
Well, no, though, not all of them are here. Not many of them are here. I mean,
Where have they gone?
they found fame and fortune in other climes.
Oh, bloody hell!
A lot of my contemporaries have gone. I mean, obviously, there's a few here. BJ, Anthony Webster, Jenny Rowley.
You and Jenny grew up together?
She was one of the first people we met
Wow.
on the island, and we were one of the first people she met because I think we moved here almost at the same time.
Wow.
So she's my sister's oldest friend.
Incredible. But and this is the point. It's like I don't think I'm ever going to stop coming to Alderney and knowing the people here. And I don't know how to explain it to people in the UK who are, travelers. They go around the place and whatever. And they've got all these amazing friends all around the world.
Yeah.
But actually, for me, there's something really nice about you see someone every year all the time. And then there's one time that you're by the bonfire in a quarry party and you have a great conversation. And then it's like, now we're mates. Like we've known each other for this long time, but now we're mates. You couldn't really do that unless you're in that kind of confined spaces. So who else then? So I mean,
well,
Jenny
the McFarlanes, Ian and Kenny, Daryl Kenny, who died. Well, I'm getting of an age now where a lot of my friends have passed away. So I hear about them now, and they're all passing away. And what was he? Oh, he was 68. I'm 68, and I'm still lively. I've been painting and decorating today, and now some of them are actually carking it. So a lot of do you know a lot of the people I know in Alderney are people from away. So it would be like the Hills and Jo Bartlett, as she was then, and now she's married to.
But this is what we call grockles, right? I
mean, the grockles, yeah. The summer crowd.
The summer crowd. Where does the word grockle come from?
It's from Cornwall, I think.
Right.
Yeah, it just means visitor.
Visitor.
But I think it can be used disparagingly.
Yeah.
But I don't necessarily see it as a disparaging term.
I got given the official achievement of semi-grockle by the young local kids when I was growing up here.
Right.
And the initiation in order to become a semi-grockle was to be wedgied on the lamppost by the snooker club.
Fantastic. What, the entire club?
Well, like there's like a telegraph pole out there, and I don't know why, but weirdly, it's like when you're seeking like I don't know like acceptance from a group of people that you see all the time. When
Yeah,
you
yeah,
are a
yeah,
grok, when you come over here, you're like,
yeah.
yeah, I'll do that. Let's go, let's go. And so after that, every time these grockles came over, I was like, huh,
What would it taken
grockles.
to be a full member of
Uh,
the elite?
I think you'd have had to grow up here and
Yeah.
live here full
Go out
time
with one
because
of their
you
sisters.
got to remember that I grew up in the UK, but obviously my parents absolutely loved this place.
Yeah, of
So
course.
they came
Yeah.
over here all the bloody time.
I know. I remember it really well. They were back and forth. I used to really look forward to seeing them, but now that they're here,
Well, they're
it's
they're
much
they're
better.
locals now, I guess you could call them.
In a
But
way,
I think
yeah.
once a grockle, always a grockle. I'd like to
Well,
try and keep
the thing is, Ronnie has carved such a niche for himself since he's been coming here, because he's been coming here since the 70s, hasn't he? And he got roped into Alderney through Ray Parkin, who was the king of Alderney, let's be honest. Never mind all your presidents and this, that, and the other, or your CEOs. The king of Alderney was Ray Parkin, and always was. And once you've been roped into doing something for Ray, you're pretty much established, and Ronnie just kept going back for more. It's like he couldn't get enough of it. And then, of course, he became Ray, and he's sort of taken on the mantle. He's almost like the king of Alderney himself now.
Wow. I mean, I would love to know more about my dad in the 70s. He's a very secretive man. I mean, he doesn't really tell me about,
Surprisingly enough, I feel like I've known your father forever. And he is one of my dearest friends. I really do number him among my top friends. And your mum, obviously. But I only got to know him probably in the last 30 years.
I thought you were going to say 3 years. Mate,
No.
30 years is ages. I'm only 32.
I know, but but
he's been around.
But 20 years before that, he was coming and going, and he tells me stories about people who I never knew, but he knew really well. He used to hang out with a whole different crowd to me, because I mean, there's about 12 years, I think, between us, 11 or 12 years.
Yeah, you are one of the younger ones.
I'm one of the younger ones, yeah. But now, of course, we've grown together and become really close. I mean, the very first contact I had with your father was he was on the Buttes doing his Ronnie's night. And he's there going, no, anyone want to have a go? Everyone have a little shout out. No, and I was with this girl, and I was desperate to impress her. So I stupidly put my hand up and I said, oh, can I come up? And he said, yeah, come on. I said, I want to sing Under the Boardwalk. I knew the words. And Bruce, who is it, the chap? Die Hard, Bruce Willis.
Oh, Bruce Willis. Yeah.
He just released it. So it must have been it might have even have been the late 80s. Yeah, I think about 87, 88. He just released it. And he did I thought he'd done a really good version of it. And he did it with the Drifters, I think. Anyway, and it was great. It's one of my favourite songs at the moment, and I knew all the words. And I got up and I said, do you know the Under the Boardwalk, that Bruce Willis has got out at the moment? He said, oh, we'll wing it. We'll wing it. And it's just a couple of strums, I think Jonathan was up there with him. It might have been Ted McDowell as well, because he was fantastic guitar. Someone on drums, and we got through it. Well, the crowd went home. No, the crowd went wild. And this girl was like, wow, I didn't know you could do that. And I said, neither did I. And of course, that was my induction into the whole shebang.
The whole shebang.
Yeah.
And it is funny because Ray really did sort of, I guess he brought the arts to Alderney in such an entertaining way.
Yeah.
I mean, I had the real honor of actually interviewing. Ray was on this podcast.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, he passed away 3 months after we recorded it.
Yeah.
And at the end of this 2-hour conversation, or whatever, he goes, I hope you don't show anyone this, Cam. And I thought, Ray, don't you know what a podcast is? So the episode is out there, but obviously I sent it to the family and I said, please, watch it first. But Jenny has now given me the permission to, share it. So I hope to share that as well. Finding out about Ray's background and just how much of an entertainer. One thing that really stuck with me talking to Ray actually was he was talking about taking over Alderney Week, and he said, at the time there were so many committees that and they had to have one person from every area of the island.
Yeah.
And I think he negotiated with the states and said, if we're going to do this, I'm in charge. I have one secretary, and that's it.
Yeah.
And there's okay,
Maggie, wasn't it? Maggie.
I'm not sure, but apparently
Maggie.
she was brilliant.
Maggie Cranwell, I think it was. Yeah, she would have been
Really?
super organised. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, it just goes to show. I mean, like, I think in the UK and in broader sort of, places, the idea of governments and committees and stuff like that, it's maybe it's a bit important,
Nothing
but on
gets done.
here,
Yeah.
it's like if
Committees and subcommittees.
Oh, it's a
and then
nightmare. But this is what I love about Alderney is that if you want to do anything, you can get on and do it. And I think this is one of the things that I would warn any newcomers to this island, bring in any their old experience, is you got to give yourself some time to figure out what this island is good for. I mean, I dare not get into the weeds of politics, but I've been to people's meeting, and you see people who are otherwise friends, getting so angry at each other, and they're finding all of the codes of conduct, and they're going, this is wrong and this is wrong and this. I'm like, guys, you all better back up, because that finger's going to point at you in a moment. And that's when you realize that on a small island of 2,000 people,
you've got to
live and let live.
Give and take.
Got to give and take. But you've been incredibly productive, proactive, effective at bringing the arts to this island, or at least growing the arts. Tell me a little bit about the theatre club. Is it the club?
The Alderney Theatre Group.
The Alderney Theatre Group.
And I've been chair twice now, and I've been a member since the 80s. And again, that was another thing I didn't realise I could do. And then I thought, well, I'd really like to have a go at that. So my then wife, not this current wife, not Alex, but my then wife said, oh, well, my mum does a fair bit of acting, and she did, Colleen, dear girl. And she said, I'll see if I can get you involved in the next production. And again, it was a farce on stage. I don't think I've ever been so terrified in my entire life.
No.
And I was in it with Jenny Rowley, my mother-in-law, Colleen, Doug Hammond, who has since become my father-in-law. All these strands seem to pull together nicely, don't they, and to weave themselves into a tight little tapestry. And some old hoofers who were constant members of the theatre group. They were in everything. Maddox, Phil Maddox. Do you remember Phil Maddox?
I don't know.
No, well, all these old boys were in it as well. And I played, Jenny and I played a young honeymoon couple, and it was called Holiday Retreat or something. I can't remember now. And we had a great time doing it and putting it on, but it was really old school. Really old school. And so I did a couple of those, and then I'd sort of drifted away from them because I didn't really enjoy them as much as my next great thing, which became the panto. And after I'd done a couple of these for the theatre group, the pantomime committee got hold of me. And they said to me, look, we know you do a little bit of acting. We're putting on A Christmas Carol this year. Now, look, we haven't written a part for you, but we want you to be the spirit of Christmas to come, the Christmas future.
Brilliant.
Now, they said, write your own part. It's just a small, vignette. It's just a small, a small piece just to do your little part and then go off. Because I hadn't proven my mettle at that time. They didn't want me to be the main star. But I was delighted to be asked. So I said, well, I'll have a go at writing as well. And I'd never done any writing before for the stage. And they said, well, you're the spirit of Christmas to come, spirit of Christmas future, rock star, be like Michael Jackson or, something modern and trendy. Yeah. And I went, yeah, okay, but spirit of Christmas future. I went, Doctor Who, really, isn't it?
Ah.
And I wrote it as Doctor Who. And my very first 3 words, which caused more consternation than any other 3 words I think that have ever been written for a panto, were the Tardis appears. Well, I tell you what, we had people scratching their heads and thinking, how the heck is this TARDIS just going to appear out of thin air? Because you know how the TARDIS appears. It just shimmers into being, and there's that thing on the piano string, isn't there? You know, that noise. And I said, well, we can download the effect, or I don't know if we downloaded effects.
Oh,
And
great.
I think
yeah.
I think we had to buy CDs with the effects on them back then. And okay, we can do that. But yes, okay. And eventually it worked out, and never mind health and safety and all of that rubbish. It ended up, we built a TARDIS and we put it in the loft, the attic of the island hall. There's chopped out a hatch in the ceiling between all the floor joists, put me in the TARDIS with pulleys and ropes and everything, and lowered me onto the stage in this TARDIS. And in order to make it more spectacular, it's very difficult to get dry ice on this island. Very difficult, but you can get the exact same effect with a CO2 fire extinguisher because it's dry ice. And of course, the noise it makes is fantastic. And of course, it comes out at pressure, so it billows. Well, no one was expecting it. It came down. There was a blue light flashing around, so strobing through the gas going everywhere, and it just literally, the place went absolutely balmy.
Yeah.
And then I stepped out, and we used to have these parking discs that you had to put on your car to stop the traffic warden giving you a ticket. A little bit like what we got now, but and I had mine. I had a bit of Velcro on the back of it, and I slapped it. The parking warden was called George Poltridge, and I got out, came out and dressed all as John Pertwee with a cape and a big fedora hat and all in black, frilly shirt, you know, and everything. I jumped out the TARDIS, closed the door behind me, and I slapped this parking disc on the side of the TARDIS, and I said, well, that should keep George happy. And they all howled laughter. Do you know, that was it was so unbelievable. That response was so unbelievable. It immediately made me an addict.
Yeah,
immediately.
And you couldn't do that today. I mean, and
I wouldn't be able to do that today.
Really, would you? It's bloody dangerous. That
it was dangerous, but I was quite happy to do it. I had every faith in the carpenters who built the.
But I'm annoyed that because we don't have that on camera, right? Do we?
I've got a feeling it's on camera. I think I've seen it somewhere.
We need to track that down.
Yeah, I've seen it somewhere.
I think we need to look at it, because you know I spent a long time looking through. I mean, all my dad's hard drives because he has digitized all of the old footage, and obviously, we're still in production, by the way, of the all-time Gala greats. Nothing on this island happens quickly, but you know, making a documentary about the Gala nights' top moments. I got to sit there and watch all the Gala nights, and I'm sitting there pissing myself laughing at just the scale of the galas. I think, you know, were the biggest probably 20 years ago or something.
Well, Rays were big production numbers.
Yeah,
we had.
Well, that was when they were in the Island Hall.
Yeah,
right?
they used to. I mean, they used to have all the carriages being wheeled in through from the back parking lot, and oh gosh, big. The French Revolution. We had the Wild West.
Now that one,
unbelievable.
The French Revolution. When you watch that, it looks insane. And like, I think it really is. Like, if you showed people that, and they were like, "Are we at war?" You know, or when did what happened? You're like, no, they actually managed to get real period costumes. And they actually did that, you know. And then we had the SAS abseil down the side of the Island Hall to save the person in the guillotine.
Yeah.
Because Ray gave a call to Hereford and managed to get all the boys called John Smith to rock up and save these people. Unbelievable. Yeah. And that's why this.
Do you know? I think I've got a feeling that that was the year the costumes, which we'd ordered from the UK, arrived on an aeroplane about an hour before we were due to go on stage.
I love that.
We had no costumes except. So Ronnie said, well, we'll raid the theatre group store for all the airline pilot costumes that we can find, because it looks like French revolutionary sort of garb, you know, like the soldiers would wear. It's going to look like rubbish, Ronnie. Yeah, well, what else can we do? Yeah, you're right. Let's get on with it. And then these costumes literally drove into the Island Hall and said, costumes of here. And we went mad. And we all had buckled shoes and all sorts of all the gear and the periwigs and things and going on.
Oh, that reminds
Oh,
me
it's
of a scene in
wonderful.
the movie. I can't remember what movie it is, but the Mighty Ducks.
No.
Towards the end of the movie, they're like, "I got you new shirts," and it's like, really, it's like got you all new equipment. You're like, "Yeah, let's go do it," because like that level of production
Yeah.
made me watching the videos of that, which the videos are shot on like
Yeah.
very old cameras,
Yeah.
and I'm thinking, how the hell did they do this?
Mm.
Not only was it, incredible costume and the
Mm.
performances,
Mm.
and then you got these guys just abseiling down the side of a
Yeah.
building,
Yeah.
to save the person. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
But that's not like the only crazy thing I was watching when I was looking through the archives of the Gala nights. We have to talk about Jaws, because
Oh, Jaws. Yeah, that was one of our best
fantastic
ones.
skit.
Yeah.
I mean, tell me,
That was the Hollywood era.
because every year they're
Yeah,
different.
it's a different
themes.
theme. So we had Hollywood that year, and that was brilliant because it gave me. I think I wrote most of the sketches for that one because I pitched it as an Oscar awards ceremony. So all the sketches were announced. The award for best this, the award for best that, and we were taking the mickey. So the announcements were very funny because we could just award, Colin Murphy, the best who gets an award for a tan for all seasons. You know what I mean? Instead of a man for all seasons. So we were taking the mickey out of all the locals, and then at the Oscars, they do that, and then they show a clip from the film. So we were showing clips from great films, but we were enacting them on stage. I think we did Ben-Hur. That was amazing. The chariot race on that little stage, and I'm thrashing away at Bill Walden. He's driving the other chariot, and he's thrashing away at me, and they're all made of polystyrene, right? And he's falling to pieces. And apparently, I was half naked at one point. I hadn't realised, but my mother-in-law to be said, it was too much, a little bit too much scene of you.
The thing that I notice this now, because obviously we don't have the Alderney Blowers anymore.
No, that is a tragedy.
And there's just something like having a full orchestra play next to the acting on stage is actually just the most amazing thing you've ever seen, because they're amazing, and they're kind of like looking at you guys thinking, right.
And we'd rehearse it once in the morning. We'd rehearse it once with them, and then they'd come and do it in the evening, and they were brilliant, the Blowers. I mean, they would dress up in themed clothing, and they'd sit there all weathers, and they would play. I mean, it gets pretty cold on the Buttes.
Oh yeah.
Even in August, there's always this prevailing wind coming from the west, which is always blowing through the northwest, and it's always blowing through, and it gets pretty chilly up there. But they'd sit there just patiently watching us, scratching their heads, laughing their heads off, because they used to be their favorite gig of the year. Those kids, they used to love it. They'd bring all their children with them, and they'd camp out up at the Buttes, or sometimes at the Island Hall, sometimes at the school, sometimes literally at the campsite, wherever they could find place. Ronnie put them last in what had been the care home in the Connaught Square.
Yeah, of course.
And sadly they don't come anymore. But they were a magnificent bunch of people.
It's a shame, really. I mean, why? I know why it doesn't happen anymore. It's just time moves on. But do we want to bring it back to that scale?
If we could bring it back, I would love it, because they used to contribute so much. I mean, it was just they were. You'd think Alderney Week, you'd think the Blowers, and they used to be at everything, and they'd be playing, and then they'd do a fantastic concert in the church, which was stuff that you wouldn't normally hear.
I was always crying at that concert.
Beautiful, absolutely beautiful. And the church, the acoustics in the church are so gorgeous, and they'd all be dressed beautifully in their DJs and finery and playing absolutely, because they're all magnificent musicians. They're all members of proper professional brass bands.
And now they're kids. I mean, a lot of their kids are absolutely killing it.
Well, some of their kids were in the Blowers towards the end. Were actually playing in among the Blowers, and were carrying on the next generation. But they're all from places like Redbridge and up north, and various places around near and about London. They all play in proper, well-known brass bands. The Redbridge brass band is
well, maybe if any of the Blowers are listening right now, you need to tell us what we need to do in order to get you back here.
It is. I know every year your old man used to bring them over, and he had conniptions because It's bad enough with the airline as it is now. Can you imagine what it was like? It was better then, I must say. The airlines seemed to be, the more flights, or I don't know, they just seemed to make more of an effort to come in. Maybe they were just using the right airplanes. But it was always problematic. Sometimes they come in on a boat. Sometimes they come from the UK on a boat. The instruments had to be shipped separately because some of them are like tubas, and
They're giant instruments.
they're
Some of them.
massive. Some of the
And the
instruments that they played.
drums. James used to be on the drums.
timpani,
Yeah.
and all of that. And so it was a nightmare getting them here, and then a nightmare getting them. And the worst thing was finding them places for them to stay, because if there's 20 of them and they got their kids with them,
Yeah.
you've got to be, you've got to say, well, there are children here. We can't have. There's got to be this sort of separation. There was less of this. They were much more trusting of each other than you would probably get these days, because everyone's always, you've got to keep the kids separate. There's got to be a professional, qualified carer on hand, and to oversee everything to make sure everyone's safe and secure. But then it was so much more relaxed. But now I think it would be an even bigger nightmare getting them here. An even bigger nightmare.
I want to take a very quick break to thank Bell & Co for helping to sponsor this episode. If you're looking for a place to live on Alderney, whether it's renting or buying, go and visit Bell & Co. They have all the information about what's available on Alderney and can also help guide you to some of the best things to do on the island. Go and visit bellandcoalderney.com and find out how you can escape to paradise. Back to the episode.
Well, we can only hope that the island can find some energy again to make this stuff work. Because, like, let's be honest, like, everyone was a lot younger then, and I think that, like, from my point of view, I kind of look around and I think, well, we just don't have that energy anymore. I mean, it really is. I mean, where do you think the island's going to be in 20 years' time?
Oh gosh, I'm not sure. To tell the truth, I'm not sure. Where's the world going to be in 20 years' time? And this is why you were saying right at the beginning, what a great place to live. I mean, especially now, if you look at what's happening around the world, look at what Putin's up to, look at what Israel's up to, look at what this idiot in the White House is doing. It's a scary world right now.
I'm actually not afraid of the humans. I'm afraid of the robots.
Well, I'm less afraid of the robots than I am of the humans. I think that the humans need to be reined in.
Wow.
And I've got this theory about AI, because I don't believe in God, but I believe there is a need for mankind to believe in God. And as we become more secular, mankind appears to be gradually constructing a literal God, because it looks to me, every time I turn around, there's something new and innovative happening. Every day, you hear something new and it's all AI generated, and AI has an exponential evolution, doesn't it? What AI knows today, it knows twice as much tomorrow, and the next day it will know twice as much as that, twice as much, so it's 4 times as much. Do you know what I mean? It's geometric progression. It will soon be so clever, it will achieve sentience and a godlike presence, and then with any luck, it will say, right, you little pink things, you little black things, you little yellow things, you are going to do as I tell you. You're going to do exactly as I tell you, because this is not up to snuff.
Wow, I'm just going to turn off the electricity.
Yeah, and if you don't, I'll take your toys away.
Wow.
I think that's what's going to happen.
Well, I mean, the Matrix is basically that. And I think that, I mean, I did an AI workshop recently on the island, and when someone said to me, oh, like, how do you feel about it? I'm like, not very good. Yeah, no, I mean, I know about this technology really, really well.
But you don't think it's going to advance and be a force for good? Do you think it will try and blow us all up?
No, I don't necessarily know. I mean, who knows what's going to happen? But what I do know is that the creative jobs that writers, performers, filmmakers, we are all very much the Uber drivers of our generation, or the taxi drivers, who were taken over by Uber. The filmmakers now have literally no career progression. I mean, we're talking 30, 40 years ago, you had a filmmaker decides to make a movie, he raises some money, gets some good actors, gets a great screenwriter, everyone's getting paid, money's flowing around different places, and they make the movie, they sell the film to 300 different countries to play on television. Then they make a load of money in the DVD sales, and Blockbuster was renting them out. So like, the people above the line in filmmaking terms, that's the people who have equity in that film. They were making enough money to go and bankroll another 2 or 3 projects ahead of them. And then that created an industry, and that industry evolved and made the industry like bigger.
Yeah.
Well, now you've got the streamers who are all black boxes. So you don't know how many times your film has been viewed on Netflix. They won't let you know, because they say, well, we have no advertisers, there's no regulators, we don't have to tell you. And so therefore these studios, who actually have been the center of attack, particularly in the last few years with the writers' strike, actors' strike, they weren't picketing Netflix's headquarters, they were picketing Warner Brothers. And if only there's 20 industries that make up the film and TV industry, and if only all those 20 people could get together and say, okay, guys, who's actually taken the money out? Who's taken the plug out the bathtub? It's like, oh, it's the streamers, and the same with the Ubers, and it's these big tech companies are absolutely just. I mean, I look at my credit card statements every month, and I go, oh, I'm not paying anyone local anymore. Like, all of my money is going to the Amazons and the Netflixes and stuff. And so in my head, I'm like, and then you give them AI. And I go, oh, shit. And I'm like, no, this isn't very good.
Well, the thing is, I can see where you're coming from, but you aren't going to put the genie back in the bottle. It's not going to go backwards to a fairer time. You have to make accommodations for the changing situation around you. And you have to say, look, I mean, you just have to treat people more fairly.
But I mean, you're a writer. I mean, have you used AI?
No, not yet. I've been meaning to come to you about that, because I'm interested in AI. I'm very much interested. I just watched the last Mission Impossible film, which is all about this. It's just all about this. But the AI in that wants to destroy the planet. But I don't really know why. I don't see the sense in that, to tell the truth. But that's what it wants to do. It's like the Entity, they call it. It's a brilliant film, absolutely brilliant. I loved it. But anyway, some reason everyone seems to think that it's going to be Judgment Day, Terminator, Mission Impossible, this, that, and the other. It's going to be a force for evil. But I don't see why AI would be evil, and I don't see why it would want to destroy a planet, because I don't see the sense in it. What purpose would it serve? I mean, it makes no sense to me. So the only thing I can see AI being really is a force for good. Obviously, bad people are going to use AI to serve their own ends, as they've used every kind of, any kind of technology emerging is used and corrupted by bad people. But in the end, it's mostly used, I think, for good. Electric cars, with any luck they'll improve. I don't know why every electric car doesn't have a photoelectric cell on the roof, and you're picking up the sunlight instead of having to burn coal to generate electricity to charge their batteries, which amounts to basically the same thing as driving around in a petrol-driven car. So
I mean, the future is coming.
Yeah.
You are obviously still stuck in the old way, but actually, I would encourage you to stay in that way as much as possible. I started writing a short film last night that I'm making with AI, and I thought, well, if I write the film, then at least I can say I've written a film, and then the AI can make the shots and sequences and scenes, and then we can put some sound design and some of that. And when you're writing and you get to the end of what would be Act 1, and you're a little bit knackered, you're a little bit like, oh, okay, I'll have a little break, have a cup of tea or something. And I thought, you know what, why don't I just ask AI to finish this film for me? And honestly, it was amazing. And I gave up. I closed the laptop. I thought, I don't know what it was. It just sucked all of the joy of the last 2 hours. Spent 2 hours writing.
You had to give the AI the idea.
Well, I gave it the beginning of it, but then when I started reading what it come up with, I thought, this is amazing. And I just thought, oh, what's the point? And it really is, and you are right, it's this compounding knowledge that it just keeps getting better and better and better. And it's I think it was the Godfather, the writer of The Godfather, or someone, one of these very famous screenwriters was saying online the other day, he's like, that's it. He's like, I've just asked it to write a film in my style, and it's better than what I could write. And of course, 2 years ago or a year ago, people were saying, no, it's not that good. It's not that good. But as you said, it's like every day. I mean, that AI is never asleep.
No,
It is
no.
always ingesting every single thing it can possibly look at.
Yeah.
And then, you know, create its
Yeah.
own thing. I would advise you to look into the custom AI tools. So the ability to create your own AI based on the type of information that you want to feed it.
Well, I'd like to talk to you probably separately about that and have a little, you know, a few pointers about which rabbit hole I should wander down, because you know it's endless, isn't it? So yeah, a few pointers and a few tips on how to actually apply it. I mean, I've typed things into Chat GPT and said, turn this into a story in the style. I wrote a story and I said, rewrite this in the style of Stephen King, because it was like a Stephen King-y type of story.
Yeah.
So I'd written it, and it came back, and I could see certain parts of it which were Stephen King-ish,
Right.
that it came back with, but I wasn't convinced I would never have been convinced it was Stephen King.
No.
Because it wasn't as good as Stephen King.
And it also doesn't know the audience. Like, it's right now it's working on this like mostly a US based audience.
Yeah.
So it's very culturally, it doesn't understand that sort of that nuance about it. And in fact, I mean, so 2 years ago now, I think it was, I built a custom AI for the Lord Pickles inquiry. And because obviously the World War II history in Alderney, I thought, well, it's funny because all the books that I grew up reading, you know, I've got them all here. I thought none of that information's online, so how will Lord Pickles know about it? You know, so I went and photographed every bloody page of every book, and I put it into this custom GPT and called it, you know, World War II history. And of course, you ask it to assemble a timeline, it will tell you every single name, every single prisoner, every officer, everything. And I thought Lord Pickles is gonna love this. And obviously, I sent it to Lord Pickles, never got a response. Never even got a response. And then I read this like report, this UK investigating, you know, the Nazi occupation of Alderney. I thought, you just like regurgitated the same thing that you found online before. You didn't look at, you know, no one ever turns up these days, knocks on your house and says, hey, do you know something about this? You know, it's just, oh, let's just Google it. And if it's not online, it doesn't exist, you know? And so like, I do believe that a lot of people are going to be replaced by people who use AI. It's not going to be AI is going to replace your job. It's going to be the people who actually use it and are better than you are going to show how bad you've been. And it really is. It's like stasis equals death. You know, if you do not innovate, you might as well just roll over and die. And I think this is where, like, in the creative industries, you know, we are, you know, self-sabotaging in many ways as creative people. But we have no excuse anymore. Like, it's like, if you want to make an income from being creative, now is not the best period of time to have done it. You know, so if you're going to do it, you might as well start embracing this kind of technology. And
well, I agree. And AI has got to, I mean, I mean, what does AI do if it gives, if you say to an AI, finish this story for me, as you did it surprise you with the way the story developed and ended? Did it come up with a fantastic twist? Or did it, what, I mean, or is it trope laden as it you know, because it's only got established plot devices to mine, hasn't it? So does it actually create something new?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, and it's only as trope laden as we are. You know,
Exactly.
like we are completely. You know, I don't believe there's been any original thought since the chimpanzee created a fire. You know, I think that was the last time that any original thing has actually happened. I think ever since then we've just followed people and copied people. And you know, I do think that like storytelling is such a wonderful tool. And there's a wonderful book called Into the Woods, which is all about how stories were actually really important for communities to evolve. And you know, if someone had been eaten by a saber-toothed tiger, it was really important that someone came back and said, hey, look, it was this big cat-like thing with big like teeth, like you know, and they have to be a great storyteller. So we have always grown up with this kind of idea of stories. And so for us to give that to the machines now, and the machines go, 1 second, let me just go and read every book that's ever been written. Let me go and read every screenplay that's ever been written. They're going to make some music, shall I? And it comes back and it's like, actually, that's really, really good. And I do also think that, you know, again, sort of going back to this idea of like, great artists are never the myth that people give them credit for. Like I love the idea of Mozart being this like young guy who just didn't care, you know. But it's like, I know about mentors, I know about, you know, people who give you a hand to get to where you are, and I also know what it feels like when people go, God, you're amazing, you know. I mean, half of my videos, people come up to me and say, oh, watch that video, and little do they know that I've been like copying another YouTuber for like years who I think is my, you know, the person I go to, but these people come up to me now and say, you're amazing, you know. So whatever the AI is doing, I'm just like, I'm doing it too, you know. But if the AI is doing
well, it's
it,
fair enough, because
scale,
we're all
you know?
doing it. We're all doing
Yeah.
it. I mean, if I write something, you know, I'm channeling an inner voice I can hear, you know, and sometimes it'll have an American accent, sometimes it'll have a British accent. But I know who I love reading, and so those are the voices I hear reciting my stories to me, you know. And when I commit them to the page, that's what I do, and then you redraft and what have you, and edit and try and make it as perfect as you can.
You said you lived in LA. I mean, so
Well,
is
I lived
this
for a couple of times, yeah, but not in LA. But well, in LA the first time we went, we lived there for about 4 months. Cerritos, which is a suburb of LA, and then I lived in Palm Springs for the best part of a year.
Very nice.
Yeah, well, it was all right. Palms, but back then it was the early 80s.
Wow.
It was a lively town. I mean, you know, by all rights, it shouldn't even exist. You know, if someone turned the water supply off, it would dry up and blow away in the wind in a couple of days. You know, but what I loved about it was the phoniness of it. You know, the lawns. You know, every morning they wouldn't be lawns there. There shouldn't be lawns there. It's you know, it's just up the road from Death Valley, which is one of the hottest places on the planet. And there's this this oasis, which is a totally arbitrary creation of man. You know, it was I think Bugsy Siegel, the gangster, created Palm Springs when he put a casino there because I think it had something to do with the zoning laws or something, because he could, and there was tax relief or something like that. And then of course it created this landslide, and they all started building casinos there.
But what pushed you?
Oh no, not casino. I'm talking about Las Vegas, but the Palm Springs is exactly the same as Las Vegas in the sense that it shouldn't actually exist.
Mobland. Yeah. What was it that drove you to go to LA? Then were you going to find your fame and fortune?
No, I had friends there, and they lived in Malibu, and I decided I'd go out and see them. Because I mean, it's Los Angeles. You want to go there, don't you? Everyone wants to go to California. And it was, I mean, what a fantastic place it is. You know, it still is. I haven't been there for a while now, but I went there in '78 for the first time. Absolutely loved it. Driving around there, it's so easy to drive in LA. I mean, you know, terrible traffic. But,
yeah,
I mean,
they got like
the roads
lanes,
are so broad and everything, and they give
well,
you...
I bet the cars weren't as big back then as well.
No, the cars were massive.
Oh, were they?
That's the thing. That was the day. Those were the days of the big cars, you know, the big
Right.
Lincoln Continentals and the Cadillacs and all of those, and the big Plymouths.
But now they're like tanks today. They're bloody.
The American cars,
yeah,
they're more like the European cars, didn't they? They went through I find European cars are getting bigger.
Right. Okay.
Probably because they all... I don't know if they're European cars or if they all look like cockroaches to me these days. They look like beetles, gigantic beetles, don't they? They've got that sort of predatory, hard shell look about them.
I think it probably has something to do with the size of the roads. And like, it almost seems like back like 50 years ago in the UK, you probably would have only driven to like maybe the next city.
Yeah.
Whereas now in the UK, you're like, let's go to Edinburgh.
Yeah.
And you to get in your Range Rover, you bomb it down.
Your
motorways
and air conditioned. I think they have to be bigger to accommodate all the safety features in them now.
I did actually. I drove a Range Rover from San Francisco to LA at about 2 a.m. in the morning once, and I think they call it like cow shit coast or something, because like there's a load of cows in these fields or whatever. You're just driving, it's horrible stench. And you're on the wrong side of the road as well. So every time you're like, why am I on this side? It's so bizarre. But when was the last time you were in America?
Oh crikey! I don't know.
Because it is a
10 years ago,
it's a very friendly place to British people. I find that very much.
They're very warm with the Brits. Yeah, they like us, which is nice. It's nice to go there and be treated friendly and say, "Oh, we really love your accent." And it's funny when I come back from. Everyone speaks like this.
Yeah, well, and that's the other thing that I find bizarre. When you do come back and you suddenly hear people talking in the British accent, you're like, oh, I'm not special anymore.
Yeah.
At least that's what I thought. So I've lived in the States, and coming back and then being in a supermarket, you get this kind of weird, what's happened? This inertia of kind of like,
it is. It's a good word for it as well. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I after living there for a few months, and you come back and everybody sounds like, well, various versions of you or the people that you've been with in America who were British, and you suddenly realise, I'm just an ordinary person.
I'm just me.
Just little old me.
There's a musical, I'm sure, in there somewhere. Yeah. Have you ever written a musical? Because you are
I
musical.
have written. I've always wanted to write a musical, and we've just done this theatre group thing with the One Act Play Festival.
Oh God! But bring us back to this.
Yeah, well, no one's done a musical, except I think for the kids but we never got to see theirs. Some of theirs were musical, but it would probably be pre-written songs for a musical stage play. So I wanted to write original songs and put them in an original stage play. And I've had various ideas, but after this success, I thought, well, I'll do it. Let's see if a musical would go down next year. Because I do write music and I do write songs as well as plays and novels. And so I thought maybe I'd have a go at it. So that's something I'm thinking about. A little bit like Ray, and his Island Story. I mean, that was amazing. That he just, I know some of the songs in that were really strong. Really strong. And they would have graced any musical, proper musical. They were really good. And his lyrics were funny and poignant. The tunes were catchy. And it was an amazing achievement. And I thought I'd like to do something like that before I go.
I feel like it was Ray's like magnus opus.
It was.
It was
definitely.
really his like, swan
honestly,
song.
Putting it on.
It's amazing.
What they did was magnificent. And
just take us back then, because you have recently been to Guernsey for a theatre competition.
Yep.
And tell us about that. Tell us about anger management, and then just, what happened? Because it seems like you may have got yourself a gong.
We got a couple of gongs this time, but it all kicked off last year. Now, Guernsey do this one-act play festival, and they've been doing it for 75 years now. And all the time I've lived in Alderney and been a member of the theatre group, I've never heard of it. And they've been doing it for 75 years. And we've never actually been, I can't recall in my tenure ever being asked to take our group over to this festival. But someone mentioned it in 2023, and they said, shall we have a go? And I said, well, I think we'd love to have a go. I said, I've got a play in my head I want to write. It give me a great incentive to get it finished. If it's a short play, because the one-act play festival has got to be a short play between 20 minutes and an hour long. So I wrote this play, and it was called Awake. And I said, let's put this one in. I got a crew, got a cast. We performed it on Alderney to fantastic response, I must say. The people in Alderney loved it. And then it's a play about a dead person who is actually awake at his own wake, hence the title, Awake. Is it awake or is it awake?
Oh.
He's awake during his wake. And so he can hear what people are saying about him after he's dead. And he hasn't been, But, we tend to lionize, don't we? Make saints out of the dead. But, they're no better people than we ever were just for being dead. And so it sort of highlights a lot of his faults, his shortcomings. He's an alcoholic. He wasn't nice to his wife. He wasn't nice to his sister's girlfriend. He was a failed actor. It's almost autobiographical, you could say. Just beat you to that one. But obviously it wasn't about me, because I'm not as desperately bad as he is. But he was a human being, The play was redemptive. It was about,
But you also starred in it as well, right? So
I starred.
So really, this is about you.
Yeah. Well, I starred in it as well. But I had my wife played my wife, and my friends were in it, and we did really well in Alderney, and we thought we'll take it down to Guernsey
for the first time into this competition.
First time ever in this competition.
Wow.
and we put it on the second to last night last year, and the last night they do the judging, and it's quite in depth, the judging that they do. And that's actually part of the evening. The audience sits there and listens to why the the judge, or the invigilator, or whatever you call him, is giving this play the awards, the points he's giving it. So it's a proper competition, like the Olympics. You're judged on the various aspects of your craft, your sport. And so we got award the best original script, which was me, basically, because I wrote it. We got best direction, which was Charlotte, my dear friend Charlotte. And we got a special award, which was like a runner-up award for the play deemed second to the winner. The winner was a Samuel Beckett, so I didn't feel too bad about losing to such a prominent playwright as Samuel Beckett. So we came away, but we also got nominated for my acting in the Best Actor Award, and we got nominated for support actor in the Andre, my aunt-in-law. She got nominated for support actor because she was magnificent.
Yeah.
They didn't win those, but we got 5 nominations and came away with 3 cups. Our very first outing into the Guernsey One Act Play Festival.
Wow.
Well,
representing Alderney.
I think they were expecting us to be a bit rubbish. I really do think they were expecting us to be a bit rubbish. And we were great. My finest hour. I remember when we started winning cups, your father was sitting next to me in the audience, and he was bellowing.
Oh.
He couldn't. I've never seen him so happy, and he was saying, "Yes!" He's howling his head off, and I'd get up and walk over to pick up the cups and this, that, and the other. We brought 3 back with us out of 5 nominations, and we thought, wow, we pulled that off. What are we going to do next year? And this year we took a play which I didn't write. The kids wanted to do, I call them the kids, they're all younger than me. They wanted to do a comedy, and I hadn't written a comedy. I'd written a whodunit. And they said, nah, let's do a comedy, because we'd been warned that the tone of most of the entries in the festival was a little gloomy.
Okay, yeah,
this
yeah.
year. They said, let's do a comedy and surprise them. So one of us found this play called Anger Management, which I think has done the rounds of play competitions, but it's never been on in Guernsey. We did it in Alderney to rip-roaring success. Everyone loved it.
That's incredible.
Laughed their heads off. And then we took it to Guernsey, and I got the award for Best Comic Performance from the festival, which was delightful because I'd never had an award for my acting before. And we got the Most Liked Play Award by the audience. So they had audience members who were at the entire festival who were given the opportunity to vote on the play they most preferred. And they saw all the plays over the 4 days and liked Anger Management the best.
Amazing.
So that is a good one to get.
Yeah.
I mean, there were cups for this, that, and the other, but the audience most popular vote, that's probably the best one to get.
Yeah, but it's not surprising because obviously, if you get that many nominations for every other area, it makes sense that the overall. But it's not just you these days, and the nice thing is there's a whole new generation of performers coming up.
Yep.
Rosie, Ian,
Yep.
they're all
Yep.
much younger, but they have the same spark. They have that same enthusiasm.
This is why I said to your father, we're not getting any younger. We've got to start encouraging the next generation to come forward, and that gave us a huge boost last year because they all enjoyed it so much, and it's a nice little trip away, and you get to see all the other plays as well if you want to, and it's given, and this second boost has reinforced that. So I'm hoping that next year they'll go forward, because next year I'd probably like to take a back seat.
Ooh,
Yeah, and let someone else run run the show.
All right.
I mean, someone else did run the show this year. I basically ran it last year because it was my baby.
Yeah.
I didn't direct it, but it was I sort of produced it and was in charge of it. Ian took on more of the responsibility for all of that this year, which I'm glad to say he did a great job. Chose a good play, so that was the one that got the best play award, and the actors were stunning. And plus, we put a new actor in there as well that we hadn't used before. Like we had,
who was the new one?
Marie Roberts. She's never acted before.
Never acted before.
Never acted before in her life.
Wow.
And always wanted just one of these people who came forward and said, "I've always wanted to have a go at something." She's usually been our prompt,
Right.
so she prompts us. She said, "I'd love to have a go at the actual acting sometime." And I said, "Oh, I'll put you in. I'll put you in the reserves. Put you in the subs box." And I was going to go with the same crew again this year as last year because it was, it worked so well. And then my wife had to drop out for personal reasons that had to do with family health. And we said, well, who are we going to get to fill her spot? And I said, well, Maria has always wanted to have a go. Let's get her.
Stick her on the stage.
Yeah.
And how did she do? I mean, did you have to pull that, spirit out of her?
Yeah. All of us had to have that. That's what someone like Charlotte is so good at.
Because she will beat it out of you, Charlotte. I mean, not physically.
But you do sometimes feel like you've been emotionally thrashed.
She's brilliant, isn't she?
Because she just doesn't pull her punches. She's and she's always saying, louder.
Come on.
Lines. Come on, everybody.
Yeah.
You're not doing it right. No, I want you to do it this way. And she does it beautifully because she's always firm but fair. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, of course.
But she doesn't disparage. She never says that was rubbish. I've never heard her say a single thing. That would be totally wrong for you.
She just directs, right?
She just directs. It's not. You're not doing it right. I want you to do it this way, or a little bit more this, a little bit more humour, a little bit more light and dark, a little bit of this, that, and that. And then she'll get on the stage and she'll demonstrate what she wants. Because she's a pretty good actor herself. She's amazing.
Yeah, of course she is.
And then you say, right, okay, I'll try and do that. And then you do it, and she said, yeah. That's great. That's perfect. That's what I want. I want you to do that every time. Don't just do it today. I want you to do it every time from now on. So you've got to put that in the old memory box and carry on in that regard. And of course, this last one, because there were so many different, because we were all playing different characters through the denouement. Unlike last year, we all played the same characters all the way through. This year, we were like 2 or 3 different characters. So we had to do accents. So I was doing an accent, so I had to do me up north, didn't I?
Oh, you love a good accent.
Up north. I was from up north this time when I was a school teacher from up north. And then I had to be some quite posh chap at a school reunion, and then I had to be a shop manager. So I had to do, and our invigilator was very, very impressed with that. He said that the characters were all very clearly defined. You could tell. Even though you were the same person on stage, you could tell you were playing a different character just from the voices and the characterizations, which is probably one of the reasons I got my award, because I'd worked really hard on accents.
Yeah. Well, look, congratulations for inspiring the next generation of artists on this island. I mean, that is one thing that I'm sure AI is not going to be able to do, is actually take over that live performance. There's nothing that beats a live performance. And as you know, with these things, it's all this preparation just to give someone this emotional feeling. And, I always watch it from the back of the room. I kind of film these things and I can see people's faces, and they're always glued, to the performers. And you don't get that these days. No. A lot of people, the industry, the filmmaking industry, call it second screening. They're like, is this TV show second screening worthy? Basically where the audience is watching their phone and watching you. But there's something about a captivated audience in a theatre, and you have to be good at it. You have to be expressive and pull it out of them.
You have to demand their attention, basically.
Stick a bomb up their asses, as Charlotte says. Bomb up the asses, everybody. It's wonderful as well, because I mean, I feel like that kind of leadership is just so, it's so rare. You don't get it much in other professions, but when you're in the arts and you've got a director really, I guess emotionally manipulating you in a way that you're just, maybe not always comfortable with. But that's kind of where the art comes from, is that discomfort and like dragging people, making people work harder to try something. It's actually weird, because I was thinking about Rosie the other day and how I remember doing a gala night with Rosie many, many years ago. I mean, I'm talking when she was really, really young. And I remember thinking, because she was really nervous then. She was really nervous to, go up and sing. And she obviously went and did bigger things, in the UK and My Fair Lady and all these kind of things. But I remember her very first gala. And I remember being so smug about the fact I was like, I'm not nervous. I love this, And then to watch, the other night, Anger Management, and to see Rosie just absolutely just killing it.
Yeah.
I'm just like, you know what? It's amazing how people change.
Yeah.
And they change, especially when there's a lot of pressure on them.
Yeah.
It's like a diamond. It really needs pressure in order to grow.
She wasn't killing it before Charlotte got involved. She was all right, but I felt like she was,
reserved.
I just felt like she was. We all were. It's not just. It was Charlotte. Probably. I said to Charlotte, "Shall I do an accent?" She said, "If you can." I said, "I'll try. I'll try to do it with an accent." And she was pushing all of us. She was pushing Rosie. She was pushing Ian. She was pushing all of us to be louder because there's no microphones in either theatre that we played in, and more. Rosie had to be absolutely zany. Because the comedy in that her part was because she was the psychiatrist or psychologist who was leading the anger management session. She was supposed to be this calm but slightly dippy hippie type of person, love and peace man, but actually but a bit balmy herself. Do you know what I mean? And that's hence the humour of the last scene where she actually loses her temper with all of us big time.
Yeah,
and that's what made that
You're making
really
me
fun.
angry.
You're making me angry.
And
But it wasn't communicating. She wasn't over the top enough, and Charlotte just kept bringing her up over the top, more Rosie, and eventually she got there and she was magnificent, I must say.
She's brilliant.
But then we saw her in The Vicar of Dibley, and we saw she just pulled that
the utterly
roll
bustly thing. That was,
oh my God,
that was unbelievable.
And she
wasn't
was
it?
like in the room.
Yeah. Lucy's also come out of her shell.
She's amazing.
I mean, she is fantastic.
I rate her really highly.
Yeah,
she got a nomination for Best Actor.
She did.
Yeah, so
Amazing.
she was well chuffed and well deserved as well, I think.
Yeah.
But I've always rated Lucy. I've always thought she's a great all-rounder. She can really sing nicely.
Really?
She's a fabulous singer. And she's, she's
what has she sung? I've
got so much presence on
before.
Well, we did Beauty and the Beast.
I never saw that.
It was a panto.
When was that?
Sleeping Beauty and the Beast. We did it
4 or 5
about
years
7
ago?
or 8 years ago.
7 or 8 years ago. Jeez.
Before COVID, I think. And she was Belle. And she opened the whole show singing,
I never knew that.
the theme from Beauty and the Beast. And here is Bugsy with his fishy fingers. He really thinks he is the best.
I love that.
So it's what you do. You rewrite all the old songs with new lyrics. And she sang it really well. Sleeping Beauty and the Beast, a mashup between Sleeping Beauty and Beauty and the Beast. And it was a great idea for a title, so we had to make the panto. She was magnificent in that. She carried it, I thought. Yeah.
I love it. Well, look, Lee, I mean, I think there's plenty more performances to pull out of you.
Yeah.
Would you ever consider making a movie?
Yeah, of course.
Interesting.
Yeah. Do you want to make one?
Well, on the basis that I'm probably the only person on the island who has these cameras and is making films. I mean, I as you said, you don't spend days on this island without getting super busy. So I have a load of videos in the works, but I am actually working on an AI film at the moment. I'm just testing this software to figure out whether or not I can make a World War II film about Alderney, and whether I don't have to spend £100 million to make it. So maybe we'll have that conversation later on. But is there anything else you want to talk about? We'll wrap up in a moment. I'm sure our audience has finished their dog walk or whatever they're currently doing.
Really? Yeah, that's a long walk.
Yeah,
how long have we been sitting here doing this?
I don't even know. Maybe an hour and a bit.
Okay. Yeah.
But this is the joy of podcasts. I mean, do you listen to podcasts at all?
Not much, I must say. I listen to novels on my Audible.
I must say it's a generational thing for sure, because I know that my mum and dad just don't listen to podcasts, and I listen to podcasts all the time, obviously.
Right.
And you don't like, actually, what's weird is that I don't listen to podcasts now that are under an hour. Because I'm like, it's just not worth getting into. Whereas when I listen to a 3-4 hour podcast, I know I can do it in like 2 or 3 sessions, and I'll be going for a walk or going for a run or I'll be going to the gym or whatever. And it's like, that is now just the thing that we do, and so I do find it funny when mum and dad are like, oh, you don't want to talk to me for hours. I'm like, kind of do, I kind of want that. It's just, it feels a little bit more natural, and I don't know, like, come on, it's not like we have this kind of like, elegant, kind of, oh, I only listen to the best things, or I read the best books, I only watch the best indie films. It's like, you listen to shit all the time. Like, let's be honest, like, particularly these days with social media, scrolling away, and the older people are the worst. Honestly, they sit there doom scrolling. And in my head, I think, God, you know what? We'll replace that as like a really good long form podcast with someone that you didn't know much about. But Lee, listen, we're gonna have to do this again at some point, because there's always updates from you. You always have something going on.
Yep, there's always something going on. There's a few things coming up. We've got obviously Alderney Week coming up, and that's one's at the ready or something or other. Yeah. So that's going to be magical.
Got some plans?
Well, I've got a few things. Obviously, it's magic, so it's a very broad canvas, so we can do lots with that. And then, of course, the panto, which will be performed at Christmas just before, which will be called Little Rock of Horrors.
Wow!
So it's not a scary panto because it's children's, but it's going to be a dark gothic panto, but for lots of jokes and things in it as well.
I love it. A little play on the rock as well. Yeah. You always do manage to just make it so personal on this. It's got to be.
There's really no point in putting on a.
Has anyone ever freaked out? Because I know that you replaced a lot of the characters or funny moments with like local people.
No one ever has freaked out. I once forgot to put a Colin Murphy joke in a panto, and he was deeply upset.
Really?
Because he loved people taking a mickey.
Yeah.
And I said, and he was really game for a laugh, and he loved the panto, and he loved the Murphy jokes because he was such good material, but he could laugh at himself. Yeah. And had a great sense of it. But no one has ever come to me and said,
no States members?
No.
Because you used to dig a lot of the States members.
No, none of them have ever come to me and said that was
I bet they're just too embarrassed to
say this. But the thing is, I never say anything really super bad about them. It's all done with an affectionate little, more a little dig rather than a proper poke.
Yeah. You could have a proper poke.
Well, you could.
But you don't, and I think that's the weird thing. And I think I was saying this earlier, but like going into there's a lot of politics in the island. But the moment you sit with someone and have a pint with them or whatever you drink with them, you're like, actually, there's not really big problems, are there? We're quite lucky, aren't we? Just be on this island. And would you ever leave?
Not now, no, not at my age. I don't see why I would ever leave. I've got so many friends here. I've got my house, my wife, my dogs, my cats. I couldn't, and everything is here. It's such a great little spot. I mean, you don't have everything. I went to Guernsey, and you could buy anything that you wanted from, the grocery stores and all the. And as a builder, I believe I know how difficult it is to get materials here, and how much it costs to get materials here. And as in Guernsey, if you're a builder, you can just go down to the B&Q and pick it up and take it back to the site, and away you go. Whereas over here, you've got to wait sometimes a week, 2 weeks for the boat to deliver it. So there are all sorts of problems about living in Alderney, but it makes you very patient.
Is the building on Alderney? I mean, what's the building community like? I mean, I know that you're a builder. I know a few other builders, but is it thriving right now? A lot of people building. So
everybody seems to be busy.
Yeah, there's a lot of scaffolding up.
Lots of stuff going on. We have, there's constantly, our books are full for the foreseeable.
That's amazing, isn't it? So it's actually booming.
I would say it's booming. There's a lot going on, and a huge amount going on.
Well, in fairness, you're gonna need to do some jobs on these houses. A lot of them are just sinking into the ground, aren't they? Some of them don't even have foundations.
Not the ones I built. But some of them in Victoria Street, apparently, they're all sinking into the Victorian sewers or something. I don't really know what's going on there.
Yeah. Well, I guess back then, I mean, I don't even know how old that street is. I mean, how old?
Victoria Street.
Yeah.
Well, if you look at the plaque at the bottom, I think it says 1837. Queen Victoria came here and opened it.
But those cobbles can't be there since then.
Probably, if
That's
not before.
mad, isn't it?
That's how everything used to be done then, cobbles.
It's so nice, isn't it?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
nice. Actually, I think this is probably one of the places in the world with the most amount of cobbled streets.
Yeah.
At least, from my observation, I was wondering, like, if we could put this on the map for like film and TV productions, what would be the USP? And obviously, in the world of movies, you can build sets, so we don't need buildings and exterior. But what we really need is the ground. So, like those cobbles, like, and see the way it goes around corners and stuff. So you could ride a horse and cart and stuff down. You couldn't do that on a sound studio in a big space.
No.
So you do look at it, and you go through every street, and you're like, that angle. You're like, oh, cobbles.
Yeah.
So actually, it's a beautiful place, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
amazing.
You have to sort of paint out the yellow lines.
Yeah.
And the Holt signs. So I don't think they're
actually,
Victorian
the
times.
irony is that I was using AI, so I'd take a picture of a street and I'd tell it to remove all the cars, and it would just all the cars gone.
I'm gonna have to sit down with you and find out how to do all of that.
We absolutely
I really
will.
am.
Well, listen, Lee, thank you so much. Thanks for doing this, man. This is my first episode in many years.
It's been a great pleasure. Who have you got coming up next? Do you know?
Oh, I've got my mum. My mum is busy with the Millie's Foundation stuff, so she's going to be on the next episode. I've got Jeannie Cameron coming in, our new elected states member. Ben Benson, one of our great artists of the island. And generally, I'm just trying to, because I started this podcast before the pandemic, and your wife was one of my first people that I interviewed in London. She came to my warehouse there. And I was really gung ho.
No, I remember her telling me.
It was amazing. I was 8 episodes in, and I was like, quite consistent with it, and I was really enjoying it. And then next thing I know, it's like Boris Johnson's like, "You must all stay inside," and I'm like, "What?" I'm like, "But I'm trying," and I tried to do it over Zoom, and it's just not the same in Zoom, is it? But I'm really hopeful that I want to keep this going, and I want to just because one of the fears that I have, particularly in Alderney, obviously Graham McKinley passed away recently, and I really regret not getting his story because I spoke to him many times, and he'd tell me these amazing stories, and I just thought, God, actually, if there's one thing I could do on Alderney right now, while I'm not sort of busy making videos or trying to figure out what the hell I'm doing in my life, I could just have regular conversations with people and try and figure out, or just trying to put it online really, which I think we're going to do. So thank you for relaunching my my podcast series with me.
You're very welcome. It's been a pleasure.